Hello everyone, I'm RecV5.
And I'm Sandman99, and we're going to talk a little bit about
Evans.
RecV5X and his running game. Because RecV5X has discovered a way, without the truck stick that is in later versions of this game, he's figured out how to break tackles fairly reliably. So, if you want to explain.
So basically what you want to do is you want to hold on to the two hands button and kind of turn into the guy, and it kind of functions sort of like a truck. It's not exactly the same and it's not as successful, but I guess also too you're not as prone to fumbling as you are with the truck stick. So you just sort of turn into the guy like that, and you hold on to the ball with two hands, and I think it's a combination of the fact that you change angle by turning into the guy with slowing down your speed by grabbing the ball with two hands that causes you to turn into him and run him over. And that's how you can run, especially if you've got a player with really high break tackle, that's how you can run over a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? And even though I didn't, I actually held it here, it was just very momentarily. So you don't even have to hold it long enough to actually get the two hands animation. You just have to press the button before the guy makes contact with you. And even if you don't have enough time to actually get into the animation, it will still take effect.
And it did get into the animation there eventually.
Yeah.
But anyway, you just ran through two tackles back to back in order to get into the end zone here.
Yeah, this was in the Cupcake Zombies League that we're doing on the side, just as a offline type of thing, non-recorded. And Evans here is a phenomenal running back. The Zombies, Cupcake Zombies, have like no talent anywhere on offense, but they have this amazing halfback who has insane break tackle. He's got like 88 speed. He's like the best running back to ever grace a Cupcake team, and a decent starter running back on most other teams.
Yeah, he is the offense.
Yeah, literally. We're talking, I've had games where we've run for like 250 yards because this guy is there.
Well, anyway, that was just kind of interesting and something to highlight.
Yep.
Because I know I have always run a very run-based offense, but I've never had a lot of success breaking tackles, and now that I've started trying this method too, I've discovered that I can break a few tackles every game too.
Yeah, instead of just getting hit in the backfield all the time?
Or you manage to follow your blockers and pick up 5 or 6 yards, and then you get tackled.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes, I can run over the guy that tries to tackle me and pick up more yardage.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I think too, like, depending on the type of back you have, if you have a more agile back, he's more likely to be better at, like, slipping tackles than he is running people over like this. But, you know, that requires a little bit more finesse with, like, the juke button and the spin button and things like that. And it's just easier to have a stronger back and turn into the guy and lower your shoulder and just run him over.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be working. Anyway, we'll move on to the next one here.
Okay, so this is another sack that you ended up getting with your guy who has the acceleration of a 400-pound sumo wrestler.
Yeah, actually, that's what I wanted to talk about, because if you zoom out a little bit here, basically this is a variant of my nickel package, except that I use sometimes mixed man coverages now too, which is why some of the players are aligned oddly. But
yep.
Basically what happens is I was in the draft in the off season, and I was scouting defensive tackles because I really felt like I needed somebody in the middle of my defensive line that could be a little tougher, you know, against the run and maybe collapse the pocket a little in the middle. And I came across this defensive tackle who had a very high bench press rating, but in the comments it says has the acceleration of a 400-pound sumo wrestler. And I thought to myself, well, is that good or is that bad? I don't know. Is a 400-pound sumo wrestler fast? But anyway, I ended up drafting him anyway, and it turns out that if you do see that description or that comment for a defensive lineman, get him. Because having the acceleration of a 400-pound sumo wrestler is actually really good, as we'll see here. So basically, the goblins are passing, and here I come, and I'm controlling our 400-pound sumo wrestler. We've got basically a 4-man line, and we're blitzing Hill there, but Hill got picked up. But I managed to run right through the offensive lineman there and sack the quarterback. Because not only does this guy have the acceleration of a 400-pound sumo wrestler, he also has 90-plus strength.
Yeah, he's got like 99 acceleration and 90-some-odd strength, right?
Yeah, a player who has the acceleration of a 400-pound sumo wrestler, that translates out to 99 acceleration, which is incredible. So... yeah, I mean, like poor old number 77, that guard there, I mean, it looked like the blitz just completely got fouled up, right? Like, Hill there got picked up by the blocking back, everybody else is picked up. And I ran right through that guard, and I'm on the quarterback, just like that. So, you know, sometimes it pays off to really have a big dominant player in the middle of your defensive line, and that's what I was looking for.
And what's interesting here too, and something that is kind of subtle, is if you look at how quickly each defensive player engages on their offensive blocker, by the time that we get to here, Mr. George here with your 400-pound sumo wrestler acceleration is already actually engaging his blocker, right? Like that's what the high acceleration for a defensive tackle does. He's already engaging this guy. That guy can't keep backpedaling on him, right? Then the other guy engages his guy a little bit after, and then, right, this guy actually locks up a moment after. You can actually see the delay here because of the difference in acceleration. Yeah,
it just gives you the ability to start pushing just a little bit sooner too, right?
Yeah, and if you can actually push people over and you have a good acceleration, then you can start pushing sooner and get into the backfield sooner, even if your speed rating isn't necessarily much higher.
Yeah, this guy's not that fast. His speed rating is about 53 or 52.
Yeah, but he's overall can get there faster because he starts faster.
Well, he's very quick off the line, and he's overpoweringly strong.
Yeah,
right.
So, but that's just like an interesting little analysis, I guess, of like who engages who, right? Like he engages that guy, then the guy on the far left side of the line engages his guy, and then this guy engages that guy, and they're almost in sequence, and it's because of their acceleration ratings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just wanted to point that out.
So it looks to me like there are two abilities that are very important for a defensive lineman, and they're not necessarily speed.
Yeah, it's basically strength and acceleration.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe agility for a defensive end, but basically strength and acceleration for a tackle.
Yeah. And this guy's got plenty of both. So I'm expecting big things out of him. Anyway, we do have a couple of other little tricks that we tried, but we'll show that in a minute.
So after your success with your 400-pound sumo lineman, I think that was when I came up with the idea that maybe if you had a offensive lineman with really good acceleration, that you could probably convert him to defensive tackle. And yeah, maybe he won't have the tackling rating right off the bat, but he could probably do fairly well at the position in terms of getting penetration into the backfield.
Yeah, and actually what we discovered, of course, obviously with a fledgling cupcake team like the Cupcake Zombies here, we haven't had a chance to go through a draft. And actually, defensive linemen who accelerate like a 400-pound sumo wrestler are very rare. The chances of us actually being able to draft somebody like that are fairly small. So what we did is we took the left tackle from the Zombies, the Cupcake team, who turned out to be the best offensive lineman, but he had marginally decent speed and acceleration of around 80 or so.
Yep, exactly 80.
But the big thing about him is his strength is 97.
Yep.
So he's basically an offensive lineman that we turned into a defensive tackle.
And he's like twice the size of anybody else on the defensive line.
Well, he's the same size as everybody on the
offensive line. Yeah.
So what we're doing here is I'm playing defense in our zombies playthrough.
Yep.
And I like to play nose tackle. And if we zoom out a little bit, actually, this is the new defensive scheme based on the 3-4. So the 3 interior linemen there, the ones on either side of the one I'm controlling, they're all defensive tackles.
Yep.
And then you got 93, the left end on the left there, and you've got the right end out on the right, and they actually replace the outside linebackers.
Yep.
So I can use 3-4 audibles with this formation, and they will respond in a way that makes sense.
Yep.
And then, of course, the 2 inside linebackers are still the inside linebackers. They're Freeborg and Burt. And then, of course, the corners are playing in their regular positions, and the safeties are playing in their regular positions. So basically, my basic defensive scheme here is a 3-man rush. 94 will drop back in a short zone. 92 will go out to the flat on his side. And then I will lead the pass rush with number 76, our converted offensive lineman, number 91, and number 93.
Yep.
And of course, this is actually against a single back big formation, so they often leave the tight end in to block. I don't remember if they did on this play or not. But we'll roll it and see what happens here. And this is what happens when you have a guy who can push people around in the middle of your defensive line. Now, keep in mind, too, this guy's tackling is not very good, but...
It's like 27 or something like that.
But he's like a freight train, right? I just basically make a beeline for the quarterback and push whoever's in my way out of the way.
Yeah, well, you're even somewhat bigger than that offensive lineman.
Yeah, this guy is well over 300 pounds, right? He's like he is basically an offensive lineman that's been converted to defensive tackle.
And a big offensive lineman at that.
Yeah, and he was a big offensive lineman at that, with a very high strength rating. 97th strength rating. Most offensive linemen on a typical team like the Pigeons here will have strength ratings in the high 80s and low 90s. So you get a guy like Harrison here who has
97
strength. Well, he's strong enough to overpower most offensive linemen.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who you want for a 3-4 base defense. He's also the kind of guy who frequently would get double teamed. And actually, what I notice is a lot of the time you do end up in double team blocks. It's just sometimes, for whatever reason, that center can't get into position fast enough to double team you.
Well, and quite often, though, what happens is that I do get double teamed, but when I occupy the center and the guard on the one side, then what that does is it frees up
extra guys,
other pass rushers, so that they are either in one-on-one situations, or if I can actually get penetration and collapse the middle of the pocket by pushing that center and guard backward,
you can get a sack, or even if you don't, the quarterback will throw it away. Yeah,
a lot of times I don't get the sack, but what I do is I push the center of the pocket in so that it's right in the quarterback's face. And then what happens is the defensive line either collapses on him, or he throws it away and throws a bad pass.
Yep.
And like I like to play nose tackle, of course, and this position, the center defensive tackle position is probably the most important position on the line for me.
And I mean, mind you, we did find you can't do this with every Cupcake team, but for most Cupcake teams, you can actually do this kind of thing, because most of them do seem to start with at least one somewhat speedy, somewhat strong offensive lineman who could reasonably play defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Right? I think the Lifers were one such team where we found that you couldn't convert the guy.
No, I had to make some trades in order to obtain the right player for that.
Yeah, when you were playing in your own separate season.
Yeah. But anyways, pretty important. And like I said, even if I do not make it through to the quarterback, usually I wreak enough havoc in the middle of the line there that I push the center and guard back 3 or 4 yards.
Yep.
And then quite often any extra blockers that they leave in the blocking scheme, like that halfback, he'll end up being distracted by me because I'm collapsing the pocket in the middle, so he's watching me instead of watching the end coming around from the outside.
Yeah, and again, too, you can see the difference in acceleration with these two players as well.
Yeah, this guy's not as fast as the guy we showed in the last replay. His acceleration is only 80, but 80 is more than enough.
Yeah, 80 is still much better than normal for a defensive tackle. I think when you have a good defensive tackle, their acceleration ratings are typically around like 60 or 65.
Well, I can't believe is that you've got a cupcake offensive lineman with 80 acceleration. Like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah. It just seems to happen sometimes on some of these generated teams.
Yeah,
you get some weird stat combos.
With the zombies defense, I'm actually I'm piling up the sacks with this guy. I actually have a surprising amount of success. The only teams I have really any trouble dealing with are the all Madden teams because their offensive linemen are just as big and strong as this guy.
Yep.
But for almost any other team that we play, even if I don't get sacks, I get pressures or I disrupt their blocking patterns enough that someone else gets in.
And even against the all Madden teams, occasionally you can push them backwards and collapse the pocket still just because he's so strong.
Yeah.
You just don't get this kind of crazy success where you actually push by the guy and get a sack for free.
Well, you know what? You started this with your defensive tackle pair on the Crusaders. And when I saw that, well, I always wondered why they didn't give you players that you could actually do that with consistently on a cupcake team.
Yeah, well, I guess they do. They're just on the offense.
Yeah, they're just on the wrong side of the ball, that's all. But anyway, we'll move on.
Okay, we're back.
And it looks like we're looking at the Leopards. And I think this is one of replays that from a game that I was playing. But you'll notice that I'm running RecV5X's offensive play here. Because I plagiarized this offensive play that RecV5X invented. And basically what it is it's a counter run. And,
the good old counter.
And it's out of what RecV5X's version of the 3 running back set, which he uses, which is a tight variant of the full house.
Yep.
And so he has 2 fullbacks in the split positions and then a halfback in the tail position. And, of course, the halfback for the Leopards is, again, kind of similar to
Evans,
actually. He's
got to be like the second most talented running back we've ever seen on a cupcake team.
Yeah, he's fast and he's strong and he can break tackles. But
anyway, of course, they also have on the Leopards a rather deficient tight end at like 49 speed.
Yeah, but this is a 2 wide receiver set. Number 80 and number 85 there are wide receivers.
Yep.
And this is RecV5X's passing version of the full house. Which I plagiarized and put in my own playbook because I like the running characteristics of it, actually.
Go figure.
And this is, in fact, a run play that we're going to review. And it is one designed by RecV5X, stolen by Sandman99. So here we go. Basically, the quarterback turns around to hand the ball off. It's a counter. You can see that the 2 fullbacks are leading to the right.
And more importantly, Douglas here is fast enough to outrun the rear side pursuit.
That's right. He is actually very speedy, in addition to being strong. But look at what happens here. The corner comes rushing in and meets one of my lead blockers. And I managed to turn outside. Meanwhile, my other lead blocker has managed to just get a little piece of the safety there and knock him back into the middle of the field.
Yep.
Which gives me room to continue around the outside.
You can make cuts like Mike Penn.
And here comes the final defender. And I did like RecV5X told me I should do. I used the both hands button and I crashed into the guy and ran right through him.
There you go.
Because Douglas is the kind of halfback that can do that.
Really, though, like, look at this cut.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, yeah, he's very agile. He's actually a lot of fun to run with. I had another replay shown by him a while back, too, where before I even knew how to break a tackle, he ran through a tackle and turned a run into a long gain, right?
Yeah, like he's already quite a strong back to begin with, even without the extra tackle breaking method.
Yeah. So there you go. But the play design, though, by Rec V5X is the one thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit in this one. And I kind of stole the play because I thought it worked so well.
Well, thank you.
And that's about all I had to say about that. So, in this one, I actually borrowed another page out of Rec V5X's defensive playbook now.
Yep, playing the 3-3-5 nickel.
Yeah, but playing a deep zone with a defensive lineman, which is something that I experimented with briefly. I don't think I have it in my book anymore, but I did have it in there briefly just as an experiment.
Yep.
Just to see if Rec V5X was really crazy. And as it turns out, he's not. Just watch this. See, now we have a linebacker pass rushing on the inside, as well as number 90 there, who got bounced off of the offensive tackle.
Yep.
And number 65, 65 is it? Or 55, the other linebacker on that side, is blitzing around the outside. And of course, he gets taken in completely by the play fake. But the person to watch in this play is number 91, who is Bronson. Now, Bronson is the guy that I've been playing as a nose tackle. He used to be a defensive end, and I converted him to nose tackle several seasons ago because I've been looking for that solution on how to solve the lack of power at the nose tackle position for a long time now.
And he happened to be just a bit stronger than everyone else.
And he happened to be just a bit stronger than anyone else on the defensive line, although he's a bit undersized to play defensive tackle. He is, however, fairly fast for a defensive lineman. As you can see, this kind of looks like a replay that we showed by Rec V5X here a while ago.
Yep.
Where he had a defensive tackle come back and defend a long pass.
It's all hands.
Yep. And he got his hands in front there, and it's basically exactly the same result. So there you go. It's reproducible. It's done by someone else. Yes, you can have your defensive linemen drop in deep zones down the middle of the field, and they can, in fact, defend the pass effectively in Madden 05.
Although he starts running downfield when this guy here is 5 yards away from him.
Yep. Well, again, though, he's a smart player too, right?
Yep.
That was kind of a weird-looking pass rush too, by the looks of it. I dropped the nose tackle back in a deep zone. I sent the left end out to the flat. I was only rushing with one defensive lineman, and I was using an inside linebacker and an outside linebacker to make up the extra pass rushers.
Yep.
Which is kind of a weird thing too, but...
I mean, it looks like you got good quick penetration in the backfield around the outside.
But
you hit that running back.
I'm pretty sure that if that blitzing linebacker had not bid on that play fake, he would have got a sack on this play.
Probably.
Because there was no one there to block him. But anyhow, been experimenting. This was an early experiment. I don't think this play is even in my playbook anymore.
It's actually not even in mine anymore. And it's just because I changed the way my 3-3-5 nickel looks, and it just so happened that instead of giving the defensive tackle a deep zone assignment, I now give that assignment to the defensive end. So,
well, you know, if you really want to split hairs.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the defensive end, like, if we compare, so for example, I play a lot of defense for the Crusaders team. And on the Crusaders team, the defensive tackle is McGrady, and he's like this big 330-pound guy. And the defensive end is a guy named Ben French, and he's only about 280 pounds, but he's much faster. And, I mean, it's kind of better for him to play the deep zone because he'll get back there faster. And he's a bit better coverage guy, if you want to call him a coverage guy.
Yeah.
But, it was more or less actually just because I changed the position of where the players sit on the field. I had to change the way some of my zone coverages work, and it just so happened that I needed a defensive tackle to rush, so I needed the defensive end to drop back in the deep zone instead.
Yeah, whereas I went in a different direction. I I still use my defensive linemen in short zones of all sorts. But in this particular case now, probably what would be happening in my more recent playbooks is that number 91 there would probably drop back in a hook zone, and and I would probably have a linebacker drop back in the deep zone instead.
Yep.
You know, like I will use linebacker because I do have on this team Sparks there is a fairly fast guy for a linebacker. He's got about 75 speed.
Yep.
And the other inside linebacker is also about that same speed range.
Yep.
And that's the outside linebacker, Lewis.
Oh, okay.
But
there's your Sparks.
yeah,
and
I think the other
guy won't be on the field.
Not
here.
on the field here because this is a 3-3 nickel.
Yep.
But in the normal 3-4, both of the inside linebackers are on the field at the same time.
Yep.
And they both have very good range for linebackers. So I will drop one of them back in the middle, in between the two safeties in the deep zones, just to fill that gap in there.
Well, I mean, you know, I do think that if they have a really large linebacker in, like, the NFL, they will sometimes get those kinds of guys to try to play defensive end.
Yeah, but you see how odd this play is, though, right? Like, it's very... Like, it was basically a bit of an experiment. I mean, if you look at the way that they go, Caldwell there, he is the designated outside pass rusher.
Yep.
Right? And then you've got Sparks going inside, and Simpson there at the right end going up against the offensive tackle, right?
Yep.
So it's a one lineman, two linebacker pass rush.
Yep.
And so anyway, it's kind of an unusual thing, and like I said, it was an experiment. But since then, I've refined the idea and gone with something a little more standard. Anyway,
so what do we got here?
well, what we've got here, if you zoom out and have a look, is the wishbone adjusted pass play where I throw a quick pass to the flat. Because I called a run play and they bunched 11 guys in the box.
Yep.
So I audibled to the flat play. I threw the pass to Murphy there, who is the second string wide receiver on the Leopards. So his speed is about 70.
Yeah, he's a slow motherfucker.
That's right. And this turned out to be a touchdown, believe it or not.
From the 20.
From the 20-yard line.
With a 70 speed guy.
With a 70 speed guy. So just let's see how this developed. He catches the pass, the cornerback dives at him and misses. And of course, there's no one else anywhere near, so I just continue to lumber up the field because this guy can't run very fast. But I'm going as fast as I can down the sideline, and here comes the rest of the team after me. And number 31 there is the first guy who's going to take a shot. And he dives and misses. This is the Tigers, by the way, I'm playing against.
So they're an all Madden team.
Yeah, that's right. And now number 41, he's going to be the next guy to take a shot. So now that's three defenders who have taken a dive and missed. And then number 34 makes 4 who have taken a dive and missed.
Oh, number 31's back.
Meanwhile, number 31 has gotten back up and he's continued the pursuit. But now watch this. Okay?
Yeah.
I've nearly run out of bounds because by the time the fourth guy dove and missed, I was laughing so hard that I almost couldn't keep it between the ditches, right? Because after this happened, I was just like, you know, I was basically, I almost inadvertently ran out of bounds there, right?
Jeez.
So there you go. You don't need speed to play wide receiver.
You just need agility.
You know, because like it was like half the team was out hot on my tail, right? There's one miss. And then there's another miss, and another miss, and another miss. And I'm pretty sure if this play had gone on much longer, that linebacker probably would have caught up to me too.
Yep, he was in fact gaining on you.
Yep. Because poor old Murphy, he's not very fast, but Murphy had about a 200-yard receiving day today.
Oh my god.
And about half of it was on that play. So there you go. I don't know what more there is to say about this.
It's just funny.
All I can tell you is it was hilarious at the time. Like, it was one of those times when something really, really weird happens, and all you can do is just laugh, right? I couldn't believe it. I actually managed to elude 4 tacklers in order to run 85 yards for a touchdown after catching that short pass.
Jeez.
So, because normally when I throw this pass, as soon as he catches it here, he might be able to run for another two or three yards. But normally that play pretty much ends right here.
Yeah, because that guy hits him.
Yeah, because all this is intended for is it's a way for me to audible to something where I'm going to be able to make some positive yards.
Yeah.
You know, all I'm looking for to do is make 4 or 5 yards on first down, you know, rather than trying to run into the teeth of their 11-man box and take a loss on the play, right?
And normally this guy doesn't do this weird diving thing either.
No. Well, it's like I said before, though, like what I'll do is I'll swerve back and forth as I'm running.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're lucky,
you can get one guy to miss.
You'll get one guy to miss.
Well, you're not going to get 4 to miss.
Well, not very often. I've been playing this game for many years now, and that's the first time I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I thought it was worth saving and showing because I thought people would find that amusing. And that's about all I had to say about that. So, this is a look at the most recent version of my defense, and I use basically a single base strategy, and then I'll offer variants of it.
Yep.
So basically what this is it is a 5-man line with 2 linebackers and 4 defensive backs, but it's based on the 3-4. So the defensive ends who are lined up out wide on either side actually replace the outside linebackers.
Yep.
And of course, in the middle there, number 91 is Bronson, the converted defensive end, who now plays defensive tackle because George there is a rookie. So he did not earn the starting position. But anyway, if we zoom back out, you'll see that, basically we're playing a 2-deep zone, and the corners are always playing man-to-man coverage. Okay. In this particular case, though, we must have been playing a zone defense because I do have some zone defenses in this scheme too.
Yep.
But basically the idea is that the 3 linemen on the left side of the screen will pass rush. Number 96 there will drop back in a short zone. Number 90 will head out to the flat. And the 2 linebackers will cover in the middle of the field.
Yep.
One of them will drop deep, and the other one will hang around short. And the 2 safeties will always play deep zone. And the corners will either play man-to-man on the wide receivers, which is what they do most of the time, or they may be dropping back into deep zones as well. So if we run this one, it looks like drops back to pass. The offensive line does a good job of filling in.
Yeah, oddly enough, it's the fullback who comes up to meet you.
Yep. And actually, Bronson, even though he is an undersized nose tackle, is still more than capable of overpowering that blocking running back, and somehow he manages to slip in the gap between the 2 defenders. But that's basically my defensive line play strategy. I want to crash the interior lineman, try and get a good position on the offensive line, and hopefully spring the left end loose, although it doesn't always work that way, as you can see. But that's why I started looking for a bigger, more powerful individual to play Bronson's position, because it's really important to be able to mow down the guy in front of you.
Yep.
Because when you're only rushing 3, you need to get a good pass rush from the 3 guys that you do have coming. And if we zoom back out here and look at the coverage, well, basically you can see that we've got a curl flat zone on the one side, or a flat zone, and we've got basically a deep zone from one of the linebackers in the middle. You can see him running in space there right at the airplane. And you got the safety on the one side there. He's playing deep zone as well. And it looks like the corner is in man coverage on that wide receiver. And if you zoom over to the other side, basically you've got, it looks as though this was a zone coverage. You can see the defensive end there at the 40, number 40, dropping back in a zone. And you've got the other defensive tackle dropping straight back into a hook zone right next to him, right there. So basically I've got 4 short zones in there, as well as 3 deep zones, and then the last 2 remaining players cover receivers man-to-man.
Yep.
And it seems to be a very good coverage scheme. About the only real weak spot in this scheme is short over the middle. And opposing offenses, like if they run the right type of patterns, they will throw the ball in front of Hill there, number 40.
Yep.
Because he is sitting back about 15 yards off the line of scrimmage by now. And if the opposing quarterback is or AI is willing to take yardage in like
8 and 10 yard chunks,
8 or 10 yard chunks, well, there is a big gap in the defense right over the middle, right in the middle, about 10 yards deep.
Yeah, they can complete that all day, but the problem is that they often don't do that. They often go for something deeper.
That's right. Because if you're patient and you basically take away everything except that, then it will take them 7 minutes to run down the field. And what you can do too is you can vary it. What I do every now and then is I'll vary it, and instead of having, in this particular case, it's the nickel version. So the Hill there is basically replacing one of the inside linebackers.
Yep.
But what I'll do is sometimes I'll have that guy run a hook zone, so that all I have for deep zones are the 2 deep safeties.
Yep.
But if it's a longer yardage situation, or if I'm expecting a longer pass, then I'll have that guy drop deep in the middle there. So I've got effectively 3 deep zones. And it helps to shut down longer passes over the middle. And as you can see here, Hill will move over and help out with a pass route to the outside if nobody enters his zone by the time he drops back. So the variant or the trick that you can use is you can put whoever's in Hill's position into a hook zone instead of a deep zone. And if the AI quarterback has been throwing numerous passes into that short area over the middle, well, suddenly he's going to have a surprise because there's going to be a defender standing right there.
Yep.
And you have to mix things up a little bit. But the base defense that I run is pretty much the same scheme, with some minor variations. Basically, I run 2 man-to-man, and everyone else plays a zone defense. And the cornerbacks on the outside play man coverage on the wide receivers, because they are the most dangerous passing or receiving threats on the field. And then I use rotating zone coverages to try and
create turnover opportunities
and stop the short and medium passes. So that's a look at the new defensive scheme. And of course, I just so happened to get a sack on this play as well, which is a bonus. So we're going to have a look now at yet another long bomb pass. This is the Spitfires against the Wreckers. Now the Wreckers in this season, I believe this is season 6, have a pretty good defense, but they still like to play cover 2. And so basically what I've done is I've got the single back normal formation out there. I've caught them in a cover 2, which will become more obvious once the play starts. But the remarkable thing about this is you got to watch the slot receiver there. He is a rookie by the name of Wilcox. And he is basically the new Robbie Schwartz. Okay, Robbie Schwartz actually is a number 82 on the left there. But Wilcox basically plays the position that Robbie Schwartz played when Robbie Schwartz was a rookie. And so if we start this play, the first thing I recognize is, yeah, this is a cover two, because you can see the corner stays down at the line there and tries to jam Robbie Schwartz. And the slot receiver takes off on the corner route. And you'll notice, if you look in the middle there, just as an added wrinkle, they must have audibled the middle linebacker to blitz.
Yeah.
So basically, they've got two linebackers playing short zones. They've got the corners on both sides playing flats, and the two safeties are responsible for the deep zones. And they actually play this about as well as anybody I've ever seen. But this was just like, I don't know whether I was just lucky or whether it's because JJ Means, the quarterback, has a 99 accuracy rating. But watch this pass come in, and this safety is really doing a good job of covering this. Like, look how close he is. Right? And he just misses it.
Yeah, just barely.
Just barely. Right? That's a very close play. And, of course, the rookie Wilcox, he catches the pass. And he, trots the last 10 yards into the end zone. But that's why I throw that pass as a lob, because I want a nice high arcing pass that hopefully can make it over the defender. And in this particular case, I thought I was just throwing it away. By the time I looked at how closely that safety was covering that pass, I figured that he was probably going to knock it away and it was going to be an incomplete pass, or it was going to go out of bounds. But as it turns out, when you have a quarterback who has an accuracy rating of 99, you can do things like this. So anyway, I mean, it's the same pass that I've showed off time and time again. The thing that makes this one notable is just how well the AI defense played this, because their free safety is obviously a really good player and he's very aware.
And fairly quick, too.
And pretty quick. But even so, three wide receiver against cover two will almost invariably result in a touchdown for the offense.
Okay, so this one is out of my typical nickel 3-3-5 type setup. A little bit different from when we've seen it previously, just because I adjusted the positions of the players, and I don't have the defensive tackle play the deep zone anymore, but sometimes I still do have him play a hook zone every now and then. And we're playing the bad men here. And they want to throw a short post over the middle because they like the slant pass, and I bring lots of pressure quite quickly. I get into the backfield quick. So he's going to throw the slant pass, but who's back there making the Superman dive but 330-pound Corey McGrady?
Yep, gets that big meat hook up and just knocks the ball out of the air. Yep, 330-pound defensive tackle going horizontal to knock away the pass.
That's got to be hard on your knees when you hit the ground when you're that big.
That would be hard on your belly if you hit the ground when you're that big. Actually, it might be hard on the ground when you hit the ground when you're that big.
God.
He left a divot in the field, probably. Oh, look at that, his face mask went into the ground and everything.
Yep.
So there you go. See, defensive tackles make excellent pass defenders.
Well, especially when they got 99 awareness like he does.
Yeah. You know what's really cool about this defensive formation, if you want to zoom it out to the beginning of the play before it starts, is look at the shape of it. It's like a I don't know, it's like a really reverse bow or something, those four players standing behind the defensive line.
Yep.
Like that's a really
well, it's just
interesting looking formation.
It's to give these guys, the further back guys, it's just to give them a little bit of an extra step on the pass coverage, because as you know, I don't tend to draft players for speed. I draft them for strength. And so everybody here is like under speed, they're slower. And so it's just to help give them that extra step so that they can't get outrun as easily. when they're in pass coverage. But if you look at pictures of like a 4-3 type of thing, like a 4-3 over or 4-3 under in the NFL, lots of times they actually will have a bow shape like this with their linebackers. And again, I think it's probably just because, you know, the guy who's on the end here, he's probably the guy who's pass rushing, and the guy who's way back here, he's probably the guy who's going into coverage, right? And it's just to give them that extra step. That's why I position them that way. I don't know why they position them that way in the NFL. Maybe it's the same reason, but that's why I do it. And it looks like they actually traded man coverage there.
Yeah, it does.
Good thing McGrady was there.
Yep. He was there filling that spot in the middle. Pretty amazing. Very athletic defensive lineman.
Yeah, he probably went and had a cheeseburger after this.
Yep.
Like, that was a good play. Now it's time for some McDonald's.
Look how wide he is too, right? Like he's like half again as wide as anyone else on the defense.
God.
He just takes up a lot of space. He's a big guy. But anyway, I remember this now because I was playing offense in this game.
Yep.
And I remember watching you play this and laughing my ass off when this happened. I couldn't believe it. And that was against the bad men too.
Yep.
With their high-powered passing offense.
Yeah, but their high-powered passing offense is no match for our 53-speed defensive tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, there he is. That was pretty good. So, we're back to the Crusaders again. And yours truly, Sandman99 on offense. And I wanted to bring this up because, Rec V5X and I have discussions or disagreements or banter sometimes about some of the things that we do on our offense and defense. And Rec V5 says to me one day, I don't like the way you play offense because half the time you drop back and then you just throw a prayer down the field, right?
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, I'll have you know that my deep passes are extremely well designed and well executed and well planned. And I never throw the ball into coverage.
Oh my God.
So here we go. This is a perfect example of me throwing the ball to a wide open receiver.
Yeah, right.
Down the field for a touchdown.
Fucking quadruple coverage.
Yeah. And not only that, but that receiver has a speed rating of around 72 or something like that.
72.
He's the second string receiver on this team. So, anyway, this is basically the corner route that I designed. And it is made basically to draw the defender into the middle of the field, and you can see that it did. And then when he makes his last break out there, you throw a nice high lob up there, and it goes over all the defenders' heads, including the one that vainly jumped up to try and knock it down. And then there's the other defender there who turns around, squares himself up, and he's the guy that eventually makes the tackle, but he's out of position, right? I've got outside position on him, and Rod Dorsey is a pretty good quarterback too. He might not be to the level that J.J. Means is at yet, but he still throws a nice, accurate ball. And you know what? He put this ball where only the receiver could get it, as John says.
God. The guy who tried to knock this pass down, he actually interfered with his other two buddies back there. Like, this inside guy, number 45, might have been able to make a play on the ball if number 26 hadn't turned around and bumped him.
Yeah, well, it was all, perfectly according to plan, right?
Right. You were throwing the ball away here.
I was totally throwing the ball away here. I mean, if you look back at the pass rush, and what I did was, because they crowded the box with 11 men, is I sent the fullback out into the left side there as the wide receiver guy.
Yep.
But he was unable to beat the man coverage, which is unusual in itself because quite often this route will beat the man coverage, but they're playing it, in this case, extremely well. The guy's got outside position on him. I'm not going to try and throw the ball to him.
Yep.
And by the time I roll to the left here, right, to try and get away from the pressure, well, they're coming and I've got to do something, so I just basically threw the ball away.
God.
And the way I looked at it was... And then I looked down the field and I said, is that 4 guys covering one guy? Like, really?
Yep, you threw it into quadruple coverage.
And I don't know how the hell that even developed. I didn't know that that would even be a thing. You know, to cover one receiver with four guys. Like, who was covering the tight end if all four of those guys were covering that one receiver? Maybe I should have thrown it to the tight end instead.
Oh, it looks like the tight end had one guy on him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is the so-called unstoppable corner route, as I believe you phrased it once.
Yes, and it is unstoppable.
I told you it's not unstoppable.
It is so unstoppable they couldn't stop it.
Well, they shut down this right here.
Yeah.
Right, this was the one that we called the unstoppable one. No, not unstoppable, but
it's a very high percentage pass.
Apparently, it's perfectly fine to have that prevented when you can throw this into quadruple coverage.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as I've said before, I'm a look long first kind of passer. So, you know, like I look long first.
Yeah, I can only imagine what the sideline interaction was like between Rod Dorsey and the coach after he gets up off the field on this play.
I don't know if Rod Dorsey even saw that pass get caught.
The coach spits out his coffee and he's like yelling at him on the sideline. He's like, "I got the touchdown, coach. Yeah. I don't know what more you want out of me."
Yeah, Rod Dorsey's already laying on the ground facing the other way by the time the ball comes down, right? You see that? He gets hit and he doesn't even see this ball get caught. Well, what do you think the interaction between Rhodes and Dorsey and the coach would be?
I know. I think the Rhodes is going to be just like, well, I saw the ball coming my way, and I just couldn't believe it, and nobody else who was covering me could believe it either. I think that's part of how this pass got completed. They were just so dumbfounded that you threw it into quadruple coverage.
Yeah, I can't believe they covered a wide receiver that has 70 speed. Wow. Like who all was covering this guy right here?
Well, like I think this guy obviously has man coverage.
Yeah.
Right.
And that guy making the move toward the line is a safety.
Yeah, but he's playing a deep zone, I think.
Yeah, you see how he cheats though, like he was expecting a run.
Yep.
And then,
so he runs the wrong way, and that screws things up for him.
Yeah, and then the other guy is a safety as well, I think. Right?
Yeah, maybe he's 34. Dropping back in a deep zone.
And I think he's dropping back in a deep zone. Who the hell's that other guy then?
He's another deep zone guy.
Yeah, like maybe this was a nickel package or something.
And you just kind of like...
I've got 4 defensive backs following me. Like, look at that.
God.
That's insane. Who covers like that?
I don't know.
I guess the Knights do.
Yeah, well, they do have a weak defense, right? So I'm not sure... I honestly can't think of what coverage scheme you would run to actually get this setup.
Yeah, that would have had to have been multiple...
man coverage
manual inputs.
Yeah.
But anyway, perfectly planned, perfectly executed. Just like I intended.
Right.
Yeah. That's enough of this. So, RecV5X, what were you doing here?
I honestly don't remember. I was playing as Green Bay here against, I think it's the Knights. Or maybe it's someone else, I'm not quite sure. But I think I was testing something. I was trying to see how something would react if it had decent players. Maybe I was testing defensive lineman strength or something like that. But anyways, I'm lined up in the 4-3 here against their goal line. And I've got 2 deep zone, 2 man coverage on the outside, flat zones for the 2 outside linebackers, 4-man pass rush, and I think probably a hook zone in the middle.
So your left defensive end is standing upright there, hey?
Yeah, I just finished shifting. I'm actually mid-shift here, right? Like, they really didn't give me a lot of time to call this play at all for some reason. They just really rushed everybody out onto the field. And so, nobody's in the right positions. Normally I'd play this with the linebackers spread, but I didn't even have a chance to do that because they just lined up and snapped the ball like right away, like they sometimes do. And yeah, the pass rush was okay. You know, it wasn't particularly great. I guess I didn't bite on the play fake, so that's good. But he was running a play action pass from his goal line. I'm not sure where in your right mind do you figure that it's a good idea to do this, but this is what happens when you actually have good defensive players. And I use that word with an alternative meaning because we're talking about a team that has like a 74 overall defense. The Goblins are not a good defensive team, but compared to the Cupcake teams, they're superstars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And because I have that flat zone out there and that corner's sitting there, he just steps right in front of this, grabs it, and he releases it. They almost could have called that incomplete pass with how little time he had control of that ball.
Yep. He almost started the celebration a little early.
Yeah. But, and that's just the funny thing about it, right? Like, you could have almost called that an incomplete pass, but that's the sort of thing that you can get if you have really, really, like, proper caliber level players out there who can actually play their positions instead of just Cupcake guys. Like, some of the Cupcake guys might be fast enough to play their positions, some of them might be strong enough to play their positions, but you really don't get this kind of thing very often.
No. Well, and I wonder if this turned out in the statistics to be a 0-yard interception return.
Actually, I think it was still a 1 yard. It was still technically a 1 yard.
Okay. Because he was almost,
even though he's on the goal line.
Yeah, like the ball was on the goal line when he caught that.
Yeah. Even though it's on the goal line there, it's still technically a 1 yard return. That's how they counted it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the score was here. Like 20 something to whatever. Yeah.
28 to 16.
Yep. Yeah. So
okay.
I don't even know what I was testing here, but I was just looking. I think I was looking for something in particular and just trying to see how something worked. And yeah, that's what happened.
Well, that's interesting to see, and I imagine that linebacker probably has middling speed for an outside linebacker, like 75, 80.
That's probably the only reason he was able to keep up with that guy.
Yeah, well, look at him, though. He doesn't even have to turn around and run. Like, he's still shuffling sideways when that pass is thrown, right?
Whereas our Cupcake linebackers, they all have to turn around and sprint after this fullback.
Yeah, he'd be running already.
And if he was any faster than he was, you'd have to spread the linebackers in order for him to get there. So, yeah.
Okay, because this looks very much like a Rec V5X defensive scheme.
Yep. This was when I was deciding to apply. I think maybe this was when I was deciding to apply man coverage mixed zone out of the 4-3, right? When I moved away from a 3-4 base into a 4-3 base. The funny thing is, I still play a 3-3-5 nickel almost exclusively. But when I don't play a 3-3-5 nickel, instead of playing a 3-4 base, I play a 4-3 base.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so this was your test environment.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like a successful field test.
Yep. Okay, so here we have a coverage sack by McGrady. And basically what I'm playing here is I'm playing that same 4-3 scheme that I was testing with the Goblins, right? I think I've even got the double flat zones and everything else, so it's the exact same play. And they're running some kind of two-back, I think that's a strong eye.
Yep, that's a strong eye.
Right?
Strong eye normal.
And
they got half the team back there blocking.
Yep. They got a bunch of extra blockers. They got extra tight end blocker, extra fullback blocker. They're sending the halfback out into the pass route. We've got this guy covered, and he's covered on the inside. We got this guy covered because he's got man coverage and deep zone coverage on that side. And then we've got this guy covered because he's running right at Edwards in his hook zone. And so even though my pass rush isn't very effective here, it takes him long enough to find an open guy that I just kind of push past everybody in order to sack him.
Yeah, you actually had to beat 2 blocks in order to get there, hey?
Yeah. But this is what good coverage can do for you. You don't always have to send extra guys. You don't always have to have a guy coming free around the end of the line here. I was actually thinking that they were probably going to run here, because I think they were running a lot up until this point. But for whatever reason, they chose to pass here, and so my 4-3 choice wasn't exactly the best for the pass rush. But I had the right coverage scheme out there, and it gave me an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, by the time you got to the quarterback, what did all those routes look like?
Well, by the time I'm making contact with them, they're still well covered.
Oh yeah, like the short guy is covered by 2 people.
Yep.
Because he's got a man running with him too, by the looks of it, in addition to the short zone. And
that guy looks like he got to the end of his route and started running backwards.
Yeah, see, the guy that's waving is actually surrounded by 3 defenders.
Yep.
And then the other guy on the outside there, he's running a post back in toward, the middle of the 3 defenders. And even that guy that ran that sort of hook there and then started to go back to the quarterback, well, there are 3 defenders around him. It's like there was red everywhere. And you still had a spare defender that had nobody to cover over there.
Yeah, because I'm playing the flat zone over here, because I'm like, well, they're going to throw the flat pass.
That's what happens, though, when you, like, I know I've commented on this before, when you leave 2 extra blockers in and only send 3 people out into the pattern, well, sometimes you're going to run into situations like this where all 3 of the guys you send are covered.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
Period. And you got nobody to throw the ball to.
I don't know. I mean, I bet you, how much you want to bet that fullback was supposed to be the flat road?
Maybe. But, that's why quite often, like I end up having to throw the ball away sometimes or make risky passes.
Yep.
But I don't leave 2 guys into block all the time. I do it sometimes, but only under very specific circumstances.
And then very occasionally you leave 4 guys into block.
Yeah, well, I haven't done that in a while.
God.
But yeah, the clown pass. But anyway, most of the time I might leave 1 extra guy into block, or I might even send 5 receivers out. And when you look at how this play ended up, well, that's kind of why I do that. Like max protect is all well and good, but if your receivers are outnumbered 2-1 or 3-1 everywhere that they go on the field, well, then your max protect even is eventually going to break down.
Well, and think about it too, right? Like if that tight end is running like a short curl or a short drag, right? Like there's a big hole there.
Yeah, you're giving up.
Right.
It's basically very similar to the result that I get when I play defense too. You have a very, very large void in your coverage between 5 and 10 yards downfield from the line of scrimmage.
But they're not interested in taking that. They're interested in throwing the ball.
But they're trying to throw a deep pass, and they're sending 3 receivers deep and trying to use the max protect to buy him time to do that. And they're throwing it, or they're trying to throw it right into the strongest point in your coverage.
Yeah, and it's just not going to work.
And the fact that you play this coverage scheme all the time tells me that the AI does not really learn, per se, because if they did, they wouldn't be trying to throw that pass, because they would go, well, the last 35 passes that we threw, he covered 2 deep with man under. So maybe we should try throwing short passes.
Well, and the funny thing about it is, too, is like they'll eventually adjust in the 4th quarter, at least when they're doing the hurry up offense thing, and they'll want to throw like little short passes to that all the time. But eventually they'll get greedy again and go back to this kind of thing. Yeah. And then that's when you just get sacks.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too, is that, you know what, some of these teams are perfectly capable of effectively running and using short passes against my schemes too, against my defense as well as yours. But they don't stick with it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even if you're using like the default playbooks, if you line up in the default 4-3 and you run the man under 2, or if you line up in the 3-4 and you run man under 2, because the 3-4 will actually have that hook zone guy in the middle there, just like we have here, right? You can still play, get excellent results with this kind of thing just by using the default man under 2 thing, and You can do different variations too with the default out of the box man under 2. Like you can give it you can still give the defensive ends audibles to flat zones, and then you can have that kind of coverage out there, and you get a lot of the same results. And I don't know, I guess man under 2 is just like one of the best plays in the default playbooks, and it's part of why I use so much man coverage in my defenses.
Yeah.
I just don't want to give up the long bomb, the long pass over my head. And I'm not going to do it no matter
well, you know
what else I give up.
The line of scrimmage here was about, what, the 20-yard line? The 18-yard line?
18-yard line, yep.
And by the time this play reaches its end, if you look downfield, the 2 safeties are standing on the other side of midfield.
Yeah.
So they're 30 yards off the line of scrimmage. And they are still keeping that deep receiver in front of them.
Yep. And that's considering the fact that they have like 67 and 68 speed.
Yeah.
So they are exceptionally slow for safeties.
Yeah, but you still don't get beaten deep hardly ever.
That's because deep zone is not an assignment. This is a job description.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was going to say. It is because of your defensive strategy, right?
Yeah, basically the 2 safeties are always playing deep. It's like you exist to play deep zone. That's your purpose in life. You play deep zone.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit that I've gone somewhat that way too. Although I do play more short zone than you do too.
Yeah.
I don't play as much man to man. Basically, I prefer to use the zone defenses and try and mix the short zone defenses up in an attempt to create turnovers.
Occasionally, I might slip in a zone defense here and there, or at least a more zone-heavy defense. But for the majority of my plays, I'd rather just play the man and just I'll give them the yardage that they want, because I'm hoping that sooner or later they'll screw up, or sooner and later I'll get a lucky break and manage to beat a lineman in the middle or something like that.
Well, or they'll get greedy and they'll do something like this.
Yeah, like throw a pass into quadruple coverage.
Hey, you know what? You can't criticize success.
God. Okay, so we have a safety here, right? We've got my 3-2 dime, which is a variant that I made so that I could have an extra guy back in coverage and have a little bit more mobile pass rush up front instead of being stuck with the 4 defensive linemen. And it basically works just like the 3-3-5 nickel, except you've got a bit more of a gap in the middle because there's no extra linebacker there. But anyways, what I'm trying to do right here is I'm trying to blitz a guy around the outside. I've got 2 deep zones. I think I've got 3-man coverage, possibly 4-man coverage. I think 3-man coverage. And I've got some flat zones. The middle linebacker there is running out to the flat.
Yeah, see,
and the defensive end is running out to the flat.
That's why you don't need extremely talented linebackers, because you only really ask them to do 3 things.
Yep, play hook zone, play flat zone, and pass rush.
That's right. They're not really expected to cover man-to-man or anything like that. They're just basically, performing those 3 functions.
Yeah, they won't cover man-to-man, too. They're too slow for that.
Yeah.
I think that's Travis Wade. I think he has like 66 speed, so he's still way too slow to do it, but he's like the fastest of my linebackers.
Yeah. But they are fast enough to go out to the flats and knock those passes down.
That's right. They're fast enough to cover the flats. They're kind of like having extra defensive linemen on the field.
Yeah.
And so I get around here.
And sure enough, there he goes off to the flat.
Yep, he's going off to the flat. The other guy's going off to the flat. There's a little flat route out there by the looks of it, and a man coverage guy on the flat guy.
And a huge empty space in the middle of the field.
Huge empty space in the middle of the field. He's got another out route going out there, and I'm not sure what else is going on out there, but clearly this is all like very heavily slanted towards the outside. And again, they left in 2 extra blockers, but they had them blocking on the wrong side of the line.
Yeah, they left the halfback and the tight end in both that time, and they would have been better off, even if they'd have sent that tight end on a short in or something. He would have been wide open.
Yep.
Because it looks like the guy dropping off in the middle there, number 45 or whatever he is.
Yep, he's dropping in a deep zone too.
He's dropping in a deep zone. Now that would be your nickelback, probably, right?
Nope, that's actually... Yep, that actually is the nickelback, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's a dime. Is that the nickelback or is that the dimeback? Actually, I think this guy might be the dimeback.
Yeah. He's the dimeback.
That's
Jones.
the dimeback Jones.
And he's got man coverage on somebody.
Yep.
But number 45 there, he looks like he's dropping into a deep zone just to fill... Or he's got a man coverage. No, he is. He's dropping in a deep zone. He just acted weird at the start of that.
Yep.
But
and
yeah,
if you look to cut off those little post rooms that they like to throw.
If you look in front of him, though, I mean, there's like a 15 yard
yards
gap
in front of him,
where you could throw an in or a curl or a slant or something.
Anything short.
Anything short. Yep. And it would be enough for you to get out of the shadow of your own goal line.
But they won't do it.
Yeah,
they just won't do it.
It's just dumb play calling, right?
So as a result, that's how you get safeties.
Yeah, you cover the flats and you cover deep, and they can't throw against you. It cripples their passing offense.
So yeah, that's kind of the defensive strategy that the coverage-based defensive strategy I've ended up developing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it may not necessarily reflect anything in real life, because in real life, I imagine that
they'd probably throw the in.
Probably opposing...
Just take the 5 yard in.
Yeah, probably opposing offensive coordinators would go, after about 3 or 4 times like this, they'd go like,
There's a big space in the middle there.
Yeah, there seems to be a big space in the middle of the field, just short.
I mean, I do actually have variations of this in my playbook where I play like multiple hook zones.
Yeah.
It's just... because the AI's play calling tendency is so heavily slanted towards the flats, I almost never end up calling them, right? Like, I do have man coverage with hook zones and spies, and I just never end up calling them because they just want to throw to the flats all day long.
Yeah,
and if they're not throwing to the flats, they're throwing deep.
And that's why occasionally when they do start throwing those short passes over the middle, they march, right? But if you're patient and you let them keep doing it, they'll go away from it again eventually for no apparent reason.
Well, that's kind of why I try to be patient too, right? Because it's like, okay, well, you threw a short pass over the middle 3 times in a row. You threw a short pass over the middle 4 times in a row. But are you going to throw a flat pass this play? And sure enough, eventually they will go back and throw a flat pass this play, right?
Yeah, I think it's because the flat passes have potential to be big plays.
Yeah, whereas the over the middle passes, they tend to pick up like 5, 6, 7 yards, and then that's it.
Yeah. Anyway. We're nearly at the end. I think we got one more to go.
Yep. Okay, and then for the last play replay we got here.
Saving the best for last, because this is amazing.
Yeah, so I've got a nickel normal here, and it's just like the plain old nickel normal with like 3-man coverage, 2 deep zones, the typical scheme. I think I've got some more short zone over the middle coverage here, but it's basically just it's basically just a straight up nickel normal. There's nothing special about this formation. Except
for the fact that you got a converted offensive lineman playing defensive tackle.
Yeah, well, this is from my own Cupcake League, and I've got a converted offensive lineman, Mr. Webb here. Playing defensive tackle because he has like 95 strength and like 85 acceleration. He's a little bit smaller than the other guy we converted, but he's a little bit quicker too. And they got, I think this is an exhibition game, so all the second string players are in, and which is why he's in there too, because he's actually not high enough rated to start yet because of his low tackling rating. But they got Lionel Hayden there for the New York Spitfires. And we've got our offensive lineman dropping back into a hook zone.
That looks like a deep zone. He's quite a ways off the line of scrimmage there. And look at this.
He gets in there, and he picks it off like a pro linebacker.
He looks just like a defensive back out there, eh? With the leaping catch.
Yep.
Yeah. Just look at that, eh? Rec V5X's defensive line pass defense.
Yep.
It's
out of the standard nickel.
Yeah, it's unbeatable. Who'd have thought that an offensive lineman could catch like that?
Oh, I think he only has like 20 some odd catching, right? Like he's kind of like McGrady in that way, right? Like none of these guys can catch, but I guess if you throw the ball at them enough times, they will get one eventually.
Wow.
So there you go. That's his highlight of his game and maybe of his career.
Probably. You'll probably never see that happen again. That ranks right up there with throwing a pass into quadruple coverage.
Yep.
How often is that going to work?
But yeah, and then we got the flat zones covered, of course.
Yep. Well, you know what screwed them up here is that they were trying to throw a medium pass over the middle, right? That looks like a crossing route.
Yep.
And they were actually trying to maybe take advantage of that soft spot that you leave in the middle of the field there.
But that's why you drop your defensive tackle back.
But that's why you drop your defensive tackle back there and have them pick off those passes when they try to throw them over the middle, right?
You know, who needs linebackers like Ray Lewis when you got defensive tackles like this offensive lineman?
Yeah, Mr. Webb.
God. But yeah, and the funny thing is too, they had double coverage on the flats.
Yep, they sure did. Wow, on both sides.
Yep. I mean, maybe he should have looked somewhere else, right? But I guess he is the second string quarterback.
Yeah, who's that guy running? Look at that guy running the corner route over there.
He would have been great.
Yeah.
Especially because that's a second string safety too, so he's not going to play that well.
Yeah.
But
well, maybe the reason he looked kind of open though is because that safety probably reacted to the ball being thrown.
Yeah, possibly.
Right? Like he probably moved over toward the middle of the field to react to the ball when it was in the air.
Probably. But look at the size discrepancy there.
Yeah.
And man, is that one guy Ferris ever small?
Yeah.
Like holy crap.
That fellow there is Woody Young. And I'm familiar with some of the players on the Spitfires because, of course, they are my long established franchise mode that I've been running for 7 seasons now.
But nobody's as big in this picture as Mr. Webb.
No, he blocks out the sky, that guy.
And gets tackled by Rock Dishman. Rock Dishman saves the touchdown.
Well, I don't know whether it was saving the touchdown or not. But anyway, I guess he gets credited with the tackle.
Yeah.
So we had some really oddball and bizarre plays to show off in this one.
Yep.
So it was kind of fun and kind of neat. But anyway, that's it for now.
I'm RecV5.
And I'm Sandman99.
Take care.
Yeah.